soldier in the Lord's army. You heard it said tonight, and you'll hear it again. We must fight to protect workers. We must fight to put America back to work. The manufacturing meltdown that sent jobs from Michigan to Mexico, that pipeline must be stopped. We must return America to her former glory. And what that means in small language, writ small, is that we must put the emphasis back on people and not on profits. We must return ourselves to committing to human dignity. Everybody counts. The genius of the civil rights movement is not just that it was a movement to allow those who had been slaves to become free and fully enfranchised in the American dream, but it was that movement was based on assumptions that everybody, black, red and yellow, black and white, all counted. White women counted, the handicapped counted, immigrants counted. And it was Dr. King's dream, and indeed the fulfillment of the movement, that now on the other side of the civil rights movement, we at least began to see the inclusion of people who had been excluded traditionally, both from democracy, from management positions, from professorships, being included into pathways and pipelines where they could participate in the full expression of their freedom, not just as citizens or as people, but as human beings. And so when the Tea Party says take the country back, when Romney and Ryan decide to cripple you by taking away Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, we must understand that this is not just about workers and working people's rights, but this is about a culture in the nation, a culture of exclusion versus a culture of inclusion. This is about proclaiming that Dr. King's dream indeed is the rich white man's nightmare, that the poor people's campaign is at odds with corporate powers, profit over people campaign. And so we cannot come here tonight and water this movement down to making sure Negroes get jobs. This is about more than people getting jobs. This is not just about workers put back to work. This is not just about full employment, because I can be fully employed at a job where I empty toilets and don't have health care, where I empty toilets and don't have a retirement. I don't want a job. I want painful, full employment. I want retirement. I want health care. I want pension payments. I want a gold watch and a trophy. And I want a banquet when I leave saying, you are a part of the dream of this nation. This is not just about a job, but it is also about fighting against a culture. And we must be careful ourselves, because we may win the right to collective bargain and bargain collectively to be greedy. We may become like many who, once they are free, imitate the very occupiers they freed themselves from. And so we do not come together to fight for collective bargaining so we can poison the earth collectively, so we can get rich and disenfranchise third world nations collectively, so we can arm ourselves and blow up people in Libya and displace those who we might call dictators, but others where they live might call innovators. We cannot fight for collective bargaining without fighting for collective bargaining to bargain collectively to change the culture of this country. If America does not get rid of its greed addiction, we will not make it. If America does not get rid of its oil addiction, we will not make it. If we do not get rid of our addiction for the mass consumption of media, for the mass consumption of music that has no significance, for the mass consumption of personality politics as opposed to politics based on the issue, then we are here in vain. And so when the question comes, is my living in vain? I say with the clock sisters, of course not, because up the road is eternal gain. And how will we get it? How shall we find it? We'll find it like that woman who was hunchback and old because
had wearied her, had burnt her over, run her down. She was weary, she'd bent over. She had a grandson. Grandson called and said, Mama, I need money for college. She said, well, baby, I don't really have much left. But she remembered that night as she was sleeping that there was a safe. And there was money in the safe she had stored up many years ago. But because now she had been bent over, she was not tall enough to reach the safe. She languished in bed because she knew that the promise of her future was in her house, but she could not reach it because she had been bent over by the weariness of the world and the cold winds of wickedness in her way. She languished in bed, and then she heard a voice saying, if you can only find something to stand on, you'll be tall enough to reach the treasure in your house. She did not have a step stool. She did not have a ladder, but she had an old Bible in her house. And she went and she got the Bible and put the Bible on the floor, and she stood on top of the Bible and was tall enough to reach the treasure in her walls. What am I saying to us? We must fight for working rights. We must fight for collective bargaining, but our fight must be a fight that is grounded in timeless principles from our faith. If we stand on the word of the divine creator, the treasure is in the house, and we will be able to reach it. Thank you so much. God bless you. God keep you.
Somebody give Reverend Bullock some attention.
Woo! Woo, 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 woo!
Sister Sean said, give him some more chicken. He deserves it. We have with us one who has been a fighter for justice, peace,